Tune in to episode 57. We have Kevin from Sip Taproom. If you don't know, now you know.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Anthony R. Destiny, Joe Ferrani, and Jerry Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is brought to you by Duro Cleaners, luxury laundry care, conveniently delivered to your door. Visit durocleaners.com, because life's better without laundry.
Episode 57. Heinz 57, Joe. You look pretty swag. What's up?
Well, Duro Cleaners is the new sponsor.
Yeah.
So I figured I better step my
nice
game
pressed
up.
shirt.
Yep, pressed it this morning, and here and off we go.
Nice socks. Did your wife dress you? I feel like you didn't pick that out.
No, I dressed myself.
Did you iron that yourself, or did you?
Did you press it?
A lot of questions. I'm not the guest here. Kevin's the guest here.
I got a guy on the couch.
What's happening? Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So Kevin, how do you pronounce your last name?
Quijano.
Quijano.
That's what we thought.
Dude,
Yeah.
When I was in high school,
100%.
my nickname was Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
That was like the easiest way to.
Where'd you go to high school?
Southern California.
So you're from Cali.
Yeah.
When did you come to Pittsburgh?
Oh boy. So my wife took a position at UPMC.
That's why you came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she spent. She was at UCLA for almost 20 years. Her boss came out here. We followed. We haven't looked back. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What part of California?
Southern California, Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Grew up in Lakewood. Lakewood is surrounded by the city of Long Beach.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You went to school with like famous baseball players. Did we talk about that at one point?
Shit. I mean, the Weaver brothers were there.
Okay.
Jared Weaver, he played for the Angels. His brother played too. That was probably our best sport either that or volleyball. We didn't have no football team. The basketball team wasn't great. So it was just baseball.
So we had another transient guest on recently, and I think the first thing we asked him was like, what was the culture shock like?
Oh man. It was easier than I imagined. Like coming to a blue collar town, you think everyone's really hard nosed, kind of rough. And we lived in the Strip for a couple of weeks. We were waiting to close on our house. This server at DeLuca's was like chatting us up and told him we're from Los Angeles. And go, oh, how come you're not repping, your Rams gear? And I was like, oh man, I was a little bit scared. And he goes, listen, Pittsburgh's a cool town as long as you're not wearing Eagles, Ravens, or Browns gear. And ever since that day, it kind of changed my perception on like how cool the people are.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you rep your Rams right in your business, right?
Plus, Aaron Donald, he's a Pitt guy, so
makes it easy.
Yeah, you can always wear an Aaron Donald jersey. You'll be accepted anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
My son wears we went to a Pitt game this year, and my son wore an Aaron Donald jersey, and a couple times people were like, "What's he wearing?" But then once they see the number and they see Donald on the back, and Aaron Donald, he's a hero in this part. So,
second year we were here, we went to a game in Atlanta. So we had pretty good seats. We were by the players' tunnel, and at the end of the game, everyone's kind of exiting, and he walks over and he tosses up a glove to my daughter. She was like 10 at the time, so she was super pumped. Still have it.
I'm glad you added that and you weren't like, I just knocked out two little kids and snatched a glove.
Well, the funny thing is he threw it up and this dude next to her grabbed it.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's for her. So it's all on video. I have it all on video. It's hilarious.
That's great. Aaron Donald does a lot for the community where he came from. He grew up in Penn Hills.
Yep.
And he gives a lot of money to the school district. He gives a lot of money to businesses in Pittsburgh, and he's a good dude.
Yeah. Trying to get that glove signed somehow, some way. So
we'll talk after. I may have a way.
all right.
So you moved here what year?
Summer of 2018.
Yeah, so the Rams were riding a high.
Yeah, we were. I think we were in the playoffs. I think the following year we went to the Super Bowl. We lost to the Patriots, which sucked.
That gives us all something in common in this room.
When we were in LA, they were rumored to come back for like a decade. You would hear it every year, and then Kroenke starts buying up where SoFi is. He's buying up plots of land. And then one day, this is like 2015, like the Rams are coming back.
Yeah.
We ended up getting season tickets. We were at the Coliseum for a few years. They moved to SoFi. I still have my season tickets. I go to like maybe one game a year. Sell the rest, but
Still fun. So you moved to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Your wife has a job here.
Yep.
What do you do?
So I left public accounting when my daughter was born. So I went to work for a company that distributed commercial fitness equipment. So I got hired as like the assistant controller. 2 weeks after I got hired, the controller quit. So I got this massive promotion 2 weeks in, and I was with them for almost 10 years. It was 8 years when I moved here. I worked remotely for probably 9 or 10 months, and then they decided they wanted to have someone in-house, which was fine. Not a big deal. I got to do that.
It was an 8-month run.
Yeah, and I even got a few more months after that.
Was it G&G Fitness by any chance?
It was not, but we did buy from them.
Yeah, that's Gronkowski's brother.
Yeah,
They're Bob Gronkowski's brother, Bob Gronkowski.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think his name's Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But it is Rob Gronkowski's brother and his family. They run it here in Pittsburgh.
Is that the G? Is he
probably Gronkowski and Gronkowski?
Yeah.
They've been around since
they were like
ever.
Used resellers. Like they would refurbish.
Yeah.
And do. They might do new stuff, but we use them for like kind of.
But they've been around before Rob Gronkowski was like spiking footballs and shit. And whatever else he's doing, because that dude, I seen him at the Tyson fight, and that dude was on like Quaaludes or something.
I don't make those anymore, Joe.
No? Oh yeah, fucking what's that movie? He took the last two on the boat.
So you So after you were done at that job at the fitness company as controller, did you go back into another accounting position?
So to backtrack a little bit, the summer we moved here, one of my childhood friends from like middle school, him and his friends opened up a brewery. All right. So we actually went to their opening. I think it was middle of July, and then we moved here in August. And they were killing it, man. They were doing really well. I was flying home probably once a quarter just to kind of check in, do whatever. I had lunch with him, and he says to me, he goes, man, dude, we're doing really good. He's like, you should open, it's called Sandbox Brew. He's like, you should open up a Sandbox like Pittsburgh or East Coast. And it was kind of a joke at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, dude, we'll ship you beer, all the stuff. And so it kind of got the wheels turning a little bit, and then starting to know that my time was going to run out. Like, what did I want to do? I didn't want to do the typical 9 to 5. So I kind of put a business plan together. I started looking at spaces, and rent here is so reasonable compared to Los Angeles, right? It was pretty eye-opening, right? So it took a little bit of convincing on my wife's part. So I ended up getting like a part-time accounting job to kind of supplement, right? So I was doing that, to make some money, and then I had, the rest of my time to kind of work on this. And then, if you've ever dealt with a liquor license, that's a whole nother thing. And so, I would say I probably got that part-time job in the fall of 2019. We signed our lease. So we found a place to lease. We signed the lease in February, and then COVID shut everything down in March.
I remember you had like some signage up, and people were getting excited. They were like, when the fuck's this place going to open? It's like, well, they can't.
It's so funny because, people just talk about construction, just in general, delays, this and that. And we had ordered the sign and it came in early. So we're like, oh shit, we should take advantage of something actually happening on time.
Get that sign up.
Just put it up.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of the reverse. Like everyone's like, oh, it's opening soon. Yeah, we're talking like May 2020. You know, so our liquor license, there was a holdup with that. And so, you know, we didn't end up opening until October of 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, it was
not the start you had planned.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, you know, people are like, oh, was it because of COVID? And it wasn't really.
Yeah. Things take time.
It just, yeah. You know, we had plans and we had a designer. We submitted the plans, and you know,
that's O'Hara, though, right?
Indiana Township. And so there wasn't a lot of, you know, I mean, the build out wasn't that involved, right? And so we go to submit our plans, and the guy's like, yeah, where's your electric, water, and all this other stuff? And I look at my designer, and she goes, I don't do those.
Well, you need a mechanical engineer for that.
Well, you need an architect.
Yeah.
Right. So then that took a few months. Then there was going back and forth after those were submitted. So it was like all these kind of natural delays that, you know, you never anticipate.
Yeah, you got to learn on the fly. Joe knows about that.
Yeah,
he loves engineers.
Yeah.
He loves engineers.
Yeah, and architects. It's going, man.
Yep, it's going.
We're cleaning clothes.
So I'd say, you know, the COVID delays were maybe 10% of it.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, because
the bureaucracy of it.
A little bit.
The red tape of it.
Yeah. And then, you know, right at the very end, this is probably July, you know, we needed, I think, 12 smoke detectors.
Yeah.
We only had 7.
Yeah.
And you could not find these things nationwide.
Right.
It was incredible.
Too bad we didn't know each other. I'd have taken them out of my house.
No, these were very specific. There was like a weird number.
Commercial.
And then we got like, then we needed 1. That's all we needed.
Oh, man.
And we're just sitting there twiddling our thumbs, and my landlord goes, well, I think I might have some from the old tenant in my closet, but you know, they're all yellow. They're like a decade old. And I was like, well, let me see it.
Paint it white.
She brings it out. No, it's like just shoved it in the closet. It was in the closet. Yeah. It was the one place we needed it. And then it goes, okay, now we need to get inspected. So I'm like calling this guy. He's up in Gibsonia. He's never in the office because he's out everywhere. There's no secretary. I drive up there a few times. I can't get him. So I go to Indiana Township and I say, hey man, I can't find this guy. And Jackie, she's the receptionist. She calls him up. He calls me like 2 minutes later. Hey, are you available now? I was like, no. Yeah. I was like, dude, my contractor's out on a job. She goes, well, when can you get him? I call my contractor. So I could be there tomorrow. We got approved on like a Tuesday. This was in October. We did like a customer appreciation day event at the plaza on Friday. We hadn't even been open yet. So on that day, we're just giving out samples, you know, getting people to come in, and then we opened a week later.
Well, future lesson, just put an air tag in your inspector's pocket or bag when they leave so you can locate them fuckers and be like,
man,
what are you doing?
Pull up.
Just imagine like sprinting all that time and then there's like this lull.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
social media, it makes it so easy. Like you just turn the key and you're open running a brewery, and it's not that at all.
You know, the silver lining is that it was really the end of COVID.
Yeah.
We didn't have to tell anyone to wear a mask. We didn't have to social distance and none of that shit. That summer was crazy. Every week was different. Yeah, and I was tracking all the cases. So I had a spreadsheet I was trying to track, you know, better, worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it got worse and worse and worse in terms of like what people were tracking.
Crazy time.
That's not to say that there weren't conversations about it, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I always try to stay out of those types of conversations.
Yeah, we could skip it.
No, I mean, like, you know, when it comes
to
like...
What he's saying is COVID wasn't real.
No, that is not what I'm saying. But from a customer standpoint, like, I'm not trying to take sides. I don't care who you voted for. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We had, I think I said that when I said I have no clue what his political affiliation is. Like,
it doesn't matter.
That makes a good bartender, right?
We all believe in green, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice about, like, in that atmosphere is you don't want to promote that shit. Like, it's bad enough you have Aaron Donald's bobblehead on the wall.
No, you know what, though? But that wins a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, hey, you get to know a little bit about you when you walk in the room.
A top 5 comment for sure is when you putting Steeler gear up.
Oh.
So now it just becomes like, I mean, I'll root for the Steelers. They're the home team. But it's almost like, dude, never.
Yeah.
So the more people ask, the more I just get so
Something would
contrarian
have
with
to
it.
like come in your door for free and blow your mind. It'd be like Terry Bradshaw's right thumb
Maybe. No.
in a jar.
But the funny thing is, dude, I have customers that are rooting for the Rams. It's hilarious. It's really funny.
Well, it's fun to have an NFC team. Yeah.
Yeah, I root for the Rams sometimes.
I was a big Eagles fan last week.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well,
They were
there
playing
we
the
go.
Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to the Super Bowl and they played the Bengals.
Oh.
You guys did us a favor there.
Yeah. And dude, the bar was packed and people were rooting for the Reds. Shit, it's funny. I mean,
Do you have people come in? So when Pittsburghers go on vacation, there's Pittsburgh bars all over the country, right?
oh man. Yeah.
And you gotta go to the Steeler bar. There's literally a Steeler bar
Yeah.
in Rome. I mean, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Do you have people come in because you're the Rams bar?
No.
No.
It doesn't have
I'm
that
in a
feel.
couple of like Northeast Ram groups. So there's a handful of people that are in Pittsburgh, and I invite them all the time. One guy showed up. He's from actually like Central PA. He showed up one time. This was like a couple years ago, which I thought was cool, but no, not really. So funny story. We lived when Kim was in graduate school. She went to UCLA, so we lived in UCLA housing. The cheapest rent. It's like $900. Two bedroom apartment, garage, which is like unheard of, but literally half a block away. At the time, it was called Gabe's Steeler Bar. Like half a block away.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
You have other family members that have opened businesses, or are you kind of a trailblazer here?
Ooh, man.
Like you got the idea to escape the 9-to-5. Was that just a midlife crisis? Or?
Yeah, no, it was tough.
Yeah.
Working at the other company, it was sort of a startup.
Yeah.
So the goal was always to get bought by like a big distributor.
Right.
So I had ownership interests. So you wanted all these things to happen.
Yeah.
So the last half of my career, every year was just presentations, financials, yada, yada, yada. And it just never came to fruition. So, it felt a little empty. Like, you leave a company, you get your vacation time, you get your 401k, but other than that, I had nothing to show for it.
Right.
So the idea of doing that for somebody else again
Unappealing.
that's for sure.
Did you, not to get personal, but did you throw the 401k into your new venture, or you just rolled that forward?
No, we just rolled it forward, thankfully.
Yeah.
And, looking back, people ask me all this. This is also top 5 comment. What do you think about opening a small business?
Yeah.
like you alluded to earlier, it's like so glamorous. Oh, whatever you see on social media is, you open the door and you're it's like, it's so much harder.
Right.
It's like, if you told me, scale of 1 to 5, 5 was the hardest, it's like a 12.
Right.
You can't.
That's the precipice of this whole thing. Is like we would always talk about how, you do this and you invest $5,000 here and you buy Amazon packages and you can just put them on your link and you link this and next thing you know, you got a Rolls Royce and you're in Miami and you don't even know what to do with all your money.
Yeah.
And then we were like,
bullshit.
if that was real, like we're pretty smart.
Right.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Then you realize someone needs to tell the real story.
Yeah.
There's got to be one out there.
Yeah. Do you think your accounting background helped you?
100%. I mean, just so when I worked at my previous job, he opened up a gym, like a small boutique gym. So I opened it up from the start, business license, checking account, all that stuff, insurance, all the stuff that you maybe not would think about. Like I asked you about the thing with that filing. It's like, how would you know how to do that? I've never even heard of it.
It's funny, I was 7 months into business and I didn't even know I needed to file taxes.
I mean,
So you had that going for you.
well, I know to file alcohol tax. I got sales tax.
Yeah, I was like, I just do it
annual tax.
W-2. I'm good.
And you're capable of doing it all yourself. And it's something that I kind of scream to my clients all the time, that if you don't know the numbers of your business, you don't know your business.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a grasp on those margins, and you can have $700 million in gross revenue.
Right.
If you don't know where that money's going, or you don't have a grasp on labor percentages and food costs and things like that, then there's no way to be successful.
Yeah, passion's going to get you nowhere.
Right.
I mean, to get you somewhere, it can't carry you. You can't just rely on it. It's going to run out at some point.
No, because there's no way to have a grasp on the profit number with passion. You can grow gross revenue with passion, but if you don't have a grasp on what you're spending, then there's just no way to be successful.
I hate spending money. Like at this
The older
point,
I get,
well, the thing is, like, year one, you just want to stay open. Yeah. So you can't source price. You just grab whatever you can grab if you need it that day.
Yeah.
Second year, you start looking at stuff, start cutting away. Dude, year 3 is like, dude, I'm not spending money until I can understand how it's coming back.
Right.
I need to see some return on it. So if it's alcohol, yes. Is it this? Yes. Shirts, yes. But even that, like, I don't want these shirts sitting around for 5 months.
Yeah.
And you're talking about $500 worth of shirts. Yeah. And I don't want to pull the trigger.
I don't want them sitting there collecting dust. Exactly. Are they going to sell? Can I turn that 500 into 1,000? If so, cool. Yeah. Can I do that in 2 months? Okay, I'll do it. But I'm not going to sell this for 5 years.
We did a big run of T-shirts when we opened, and I think I probably spent like $1,000.
I'll give this back after.
No. So we still have a few like kind of off sizes or whatever, and they just sit there. They're pretty or whatever. And we got into this book club thing, and we can get into that too. So even these, I said, okay, well, I'll buy 50 shirts. There's like 12 book club members, right? So we're handing them out one Friday night, and customers are like, oh, what's that? We sold them all that night. Yeah. It wasn't sitting inventory. It just all went. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of like.
Yeah, the Friday night book club's like, it's an experience.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What is the Friday night book club?
Oh, man.
And now a brief word from our sponsor.
Streamline your life with Duro Cleaner's complete pickup and delivery service. From your doorstep to their state-of-the-art cleaning facility and back, all without you lifting a finger. You get time back in your day and fresh, ready-to-go clothes. And just wait, big things are coming soon to make your experience even better. Visit DuroCleaners.com because life's better without laundry.
So the interesting thing, the one thing about SIP is it brings all kinds of people out and together. We got some weird stories, not weird, some cool stories of like people reconnecting. The craziest story, I think, probably number one story. So there's one of my friends in Southern California. We worked in public accounting together. His wife went to a hairdresser on Rodeo Drive. So she goes in, she's getting her hair done. Her hairdresser's from Pittsburgh. And so she's like, oh yeah, I have a friend that opens a bar in Pittsburgh. It's called SIP. So they tell their cousins in Pittsburgh. So they walk into SIP one day and I see them walk into the bar and I hear her name. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And she's like, ask him if he knows Katie Garcia. And I'm like, what? And the two brothers I actually know from the Racket Club. So, I had a relationship with them. They walk up and they tell me this story. And I was like, that's fucking wild, right? She's 3,000 miles away and she somehow knows someone that has a bar in SIP, in Pittsburgh. But the book club thing kind of, so it speaks to like the different groups of people that come in. So if you look at, there's 12 book club members that are in a fantasy football league, it's probably 3 or 4 different groups of people, but they all would show up, not all, most, majority, on a Friday night. So they started to get to know each other. You see some person every Friday for a month, you're like, hey, what's your name? Yada, yada, yada. And a friend of mine kind of coined it and goes, oh man, this is like a Friday book club. And it kind of stuck and it kept sticking. And this was probably over the summer. And then someone chimed in and says, oh, we should do a fantasy football league. Okay, so now there's 12 of us in a fantasy football league. And then it goes, oh, we need shirts. Okay, so we got the shirts. And it's just kind of snowballed. It's just kind of, it creates intrigue. I get messages about it all the time. People want to know what book we're reading. I had one customer ask, how do we read a book every week? And I had one guy, he kept wanting to bring in a book. And we're like, dude, there's no book. And he's like, but it's an ebook. No, man, there's
You
no
watch
book.
those, right?
Book.
You watch
You watch
ebooks?
And so it's just kind of stuck, you know.
First rule about book club is there's no books.
So then, you know, one of the guys, he's brought a couple books to book club.
Okay. We'll tell the wives that there's books.
Well, their wives are there too.
But now, so you know, the ritual is you sign the book
Right.
every time. So it's a Hunter S. Thompson book, and people will kind of circle quotes, initial or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, it's just kind of stuck.
That's cool.
It's just fun.
That really took off over the summer because like in the spring I would come down and then we had a friend that was going through some shit and like he would just hang out at my house on Fridays. And so we would just hang out and then like recently I come down and it was like all the same faces, but everybody was proud to be part of it. And it was nice to see everybody. And it was like, oh, sign the book. And I'm like, I felt honored then. And I'm like, lock the door. Like everybody's here that needs to be here now. Like don't let anybody else in.
It's kind of funny because people ask about it. Some people will not want to ask. They think it's private. So again, it's one of those things where like it's a very organic kind of situation. You know, no one's trying very hard. I mean, aside from like the shirts and stuff, but that's fun, you know. But it's not that serious, which makes it fun. And you know,
And anyone can go and like
talk
be
about
part of it.
it's free advertising.
Yeah.
Anytime someone messages me about it's working. You know, what is it? When do you do it? Whatever.
I mean, it actually makes it for me. I'm like, well, I have to go down and stop. It's Friday night book club. Like my wife did that 10 years ago when we first started dating. Like one Saturday a month, they had book club. And like, I'm a naive dummy. I'm like, what are you guys reading? She's like, I don't know. I didn't even go to Barnes and Nobles and get it. She stayed with me at the time. She'd leave with a bottle of wine and go to book club. And it's a great cover story for anything.
I mean, we've hosted a couple book clubs.
Like actual book clubs.
Yeah.
You're going to be out of here by 6 because book club starts.
They talk about it for half an hour and then they all just hang out and drink wine.
We do like stuff for the PTO and stuff.
Yeah.
So your license, are you a full restaurant license? Or, okay, so do you serve food there?
We do, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we do sandwiches, we do some appetizers. You know, when we first opened, we had a pretty expansive menu. We were trying to do maybe 6 or 7 sandwiches. And like I said, this was like the end of COVID. People just wanted to drink.
Yeah.
So we were preparing all this food on a weekly basis and just, you know, couldn't get rid of it. So we've kind of parsed it down a little bit. So we have a couple of sandwiches. We do a dip, a cheese plate, you know, easy stuff that can kind of last a couple of weeks versus, you know, perishable right away.
I mean, I think when like an average listener to this like thinks about a bar, they think about a bar, but this is truly a tap room. Like it's different than like you brought something here that was different than what I'm used to. Like, you know, you're right across the street from the dive bar.
Yep.
That's a bar.
Yep.
What you got going on is more like couture. Like it's a nice, you don't have to worry about shit when you go in there. You just have a couple beers and go home.
I kind of joked when we were opening that I thought it would be like a Starbucks for adults.
Right.
You'd go to Starbucks for a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Breakfast, coffee, meetings, you bring your kids, all the stuff. And we wanted to be as open for everybody, you know, kids included. You know, I've had a small child at one point.
Yeah.
So you just, you know, you wanted to be pretty welcoming. You didn't want to really kind of keep anyone out for any specific reason.
Right. I mean, if that's the look you were going for, you pretty much nailed it in your place there because, I mean, I have a tendency to overstay my welcome sometimes in places. And you just feel it like, hey, it's time to leave, you know, like it's a nice vibe there. So anybody that hasn't experienced it needs to check it out. Because
I appreciate that.
Nailed it. So I don't know too much about LA, but I feel like I'm in LA when I'm in there sometimes.
I mean, I think the one thing that has been difficult, at least in the beginning, was trying to do what we wanted to do. We want to do all local beer. You know, I get asked all the time, do you have Miller Lite? Do you have, you know, all these things? Do you have even craft beer? Do you have Aslan? Do you have Two Hearted? And, you know, you'd be hard pressed to find any bar or restaurant that has an entire tap list that's all craft.
Right.
One, because it's not cheap. But two, you know, we don't do it. We have a full bar license, but we don't do cocktails. We're not mixing Cosmos and lemon drops.
Yeah.
So, to that end, we do the wine. So we're not doing Pittsburgh wines. We do West Coast wines, which is kind of the influence from my wife and I's wine drinking experience. We went to school in Santa Barbara.
Thank you for not doing Pittsburgh wines.
Well,
Pennsylvania wine is not.
So the first year we were here, we went up to Erie for our anniversary or birthdays.
Culture shock.
And we went wine tasting, and every wine was so sweet.
Yeah.
We went to 2 places, and we just kind of gave up, and we just went to a bar and had drinks. And we came back, and our neighbors were like, "Oh, you don't know about PA wine?" I'm like, "No, what? Oh, they're all sweet."
Yeah.
And we're like, "No, we didn't."
Yeah, it's
It's
either
like jelly.
It seems like it's either really sweet, or if they try to do like a dry, it's bitter
Yeah.
and just not good.
I mean, we were tasting strawberry wine, blueberry wine, all these kind of off-color, like aside from the grapes, but it just was.
It's all very sweet.
It was, interesting
not-
experience.
It's funny because people were like 5-star PA wine. It's like 1-star
Yeah.
West. Like it's 1
Yeah,
star.
whenever you open it up to like the rest of the country or rest of the world, it's like barely a 1-star
Yeah.
wine.
I mean, no knock on Narcissi. Like Narcissi has their own thing going on. They have a great environment up there, but like, not a big fan. Like it's just like drinking syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's kind of funny when we were throwing around this idea, my wife said, "Are we going to serve wine?" And my gut reaction was like, "No, it's a tap room." And she kind of was like, "Well, I don't think I want to do this anymore." I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're serving wine."
Good call.
Put wine on tap.
Way to pivot.
But to be fair, I mean, I don't know that we would have survived without it, right? It makes up, I don't know, 1/3 of the sales, maybe more.
Right. Now that I think about it, there's been nights where like we've had a sitter and we wanted to like come in and that's a selling point.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time, and not to be stereotypical, it's like the husband drinks beer, the wife does not. And vice versa, but it's typically that.
Well, it's a troubled relationship.
And, people will point that out. They're like, "We wouldn't come here if you didn't have wine because my spouse doesn't drink."
wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one time I went out with my wife and sat down, and I'm like, she's like, "What are you going to get?" And I'm like, "I think I'm going to get a glass of wine." And she's like, "Oh, well, now I have to get wine." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you can't have a wine and I get a beer. Like, it's not supposed to be that way."
The old order
Listen,
flip.
you can get whatever you want at Sip. Okay.
Yeah,
There's
Sip's got a
it's
little bit-
it's a
There's no
judgment-free zone.
judgment there.
At least while you're there.
It's crazy because it's not this big place, but it has something for everybody. And I think that's why the book club worked out is because everybody feels like you can walk in there and be comfortable.
Comfortable.
You have
on the spot.
non-alcoholic drinks too, right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
you got kids' drinks.
Dude, the non-alcoholic beers, well, I know what you're saying, but those, I mean, we sell a ton of it. Not just dry January.
You should just start, when I walk in and say like, just give me whatever you're trying to get rid of, you just feed me non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah, that's what they should do.
Like, dude, I had 10 tonight. I feel great.
I feel good tomorrow in the
Tolerance.
morning. Yeah, it's funny. We've kind of expanded a little bit in terms of like adding like seltzers. Like I didn't want to do like High Noons, but Stateside is it's a PA company. Their vodka sodas are great. Their vodka's great. And it kind of checks that box of like, gluten-free, low ABV. So again, like you have someone that doesn't want a glass of wine or beer or bourbon, they can go with that. Like ciders are okay, don't sell quite as well, but the seltzers they move really well.
Cider's a little bit seasonal.
Yeah.
People like want to get on them. It's like sweater season, but then they go and come.
And then we started carrying a cocktail from Goodlander. So they keg all their cocktails. So it's a little bit of a nicer option in terms of like a canned cocktail, and it's gluten-free. It's amazing how many people need gluten-free,
Well, our last guest feels that it's not.
Solved gluten.
Yeah, he solved gluten. He makes a sourdough pizza that people that have gluten situations can eat it.
Yeah, aside from like celiac disease, that's a whole different thing.
What he
But if you
thinks
just
is-
have like a gluten sensitivity, the flour that he uses, it's like he's stone ground by monks, and it's very very pure. It's it's
I think
crazy.
you were talking about this last week.
But like the thing about it is like people have gluten sensitivity and they eat like normal shit, and it's like, well, maybe it's not the gluten. There's all this other shit that's thrown into that food.
Right.
But,
Everything he does, he focuses on clean. So they make their own sourdough, ferment it for 96 hours. Like everything, the tomatoes are sourced from a particular place in California. The cheese is sourced from a farm in outside of Lancaster.
So like your lactose, like if you have a lactose issue, a lot of people can eat that.
Low lactose cheese.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting that, and I'll tell you, we went out after the podcast. I took my son and my parents.
Didn't invite us. Wait.
Yeah.
He like made that sound like
We're like, we're all gonna go. And
we
Jerry
didn't all
went.
go, but
he went 16 hours later.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you guys didn't
Reservations
go.
already.
Could you imagine if we were there when the guy came out with the bat?
Yeah, that
We'd be
was
in jail.
there was a
I
little
had
altercation while we were there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Joe
was
would have ended
headbutting.
up beating the hell out of somebody, and it would have been really bad. So it's probably for the best. Yeah, but
I'm like 0-14 in my last 15 fish fights, so they would have probably kicked my ass. You would have dragged me
You're
out.
literally Glass Joe from
wouldn't
like
have
this
ended
and
well. But I will vouch for the fact that you can eat that pizza and not feel like shit after.
Man.
It's light, it's crisp, it's really good. And we kind of talked about that during the episode because this dude talks a lot of shit on social media.
I've heard
And I like him. He's and we talked about it on the podcast that like if his product wasn't as good as it is, he couldn't get away with it. But his product is freaking legit.
Yeah.
And you're such a nice guy. You don't even need to go to that position. I mean, very like I would just speak from experience. Like I think I was just having a day of it years ago, and like I went to get my like 30 pack, and like my pizza wasn't ready, and I didn't want to stand there, and I just kind of came over because it was finally open, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! No one's gonna find me here."
It's so funny. So many people, they're happy that it's busy, but they like it when it's not.
Right.
So it's like this weird catch-22 because it's like when it's not busy, people can just come in, relax, and not be found.
Right. And then
kinda
several
hang out.
months ago, I walked in, and it was like two of my wife's friends and like their husbands, and
Fuck, they caught me.
and I'm like.
They found me out.
So I chanced it like the next week and they weren't there, and I was like, all right, well, they're not regulars, so we'll be okay. We'll just, and I come in discreet, I get my 2 drinks, and like I don't need to talk to anybody, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of great people that like also have kids, and what's nice is there are a lot of local people.
Yeah.
So they also have kids in the same school as my kids, and it's like they don't know who I really was, they just kind of know I'm there.
Yeah.
So it's
they know
like
they knew
nice.
you.
Yeah, they knew me.
Yeah.
So
The one that doesn't get kicked out of bars.
yeah, and it was never my fault anyway.
Yeah, right.
I think part of opening up any business, at least where we are, we did want to be part of the community.
Yeah.
When we were looking at the space, it actually got leased before we got it. So, I had friends saying, oh, there's a spot in Aspinwall, there's a spot out on Route 8. And for me, it didn't have that same appeal.
Right.
Because I'm not saying, okay, I'm Aspinwall adjacent, but I'm not in that community necessarily. I live by you. I'm a half a mile from my store.
Yeah.
So like to your
Nice.
point is, we get Fairview parents, middle school, all these parents, people that I know because they live here, which is cool, right? And that, the idea of like giving back to community in LA is almost just, it seems like something you have to say, but it's just so chaotic. Like, I don't know how it happens necessarily. Whereas here, we can support football teams, we support basketball teams. You can kind of see where that money's going. It isn't just like going out in the ether and like someone's salary or whatever.
Yep.
I just had that issue. Like I was 7 years on McKnight Road, and like kudos to North Hills. I love all those people out there. They're great people, but so much of my clientele was just transient people that were going through that daily grind of driving to the city and dropping off their dry cleaning. And it was like, I never felt like I was part of that community at all. The only person that ever really reached out was like some third party company that was like, put your brand on our high school basketball poster. Like I reached out to help the band there because we do uniforms, no response. And it was like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like just do your own thing or like be part of a community, which you like, people, we talked about it earlier, like people didn't know where you were. Like, where were you? Like you were at Sip Taproom, and now it's like starting to gain traction. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough to hear people say they don't know where we are, especially when they live in the neighborhood. So I think for us, doing private events had been it's free advertising, right? People that are hosting, oh, we've been to SIP, we'd love to have our party there. Oh, I'm gonna invite 30 people. You know, half those people have never been to SIP. Half the people were like, I didn't even know this was here. So that's kind of was our way in, you know, because a big thing is like, oh, what does it cost to rent it? How do I close it? How much do you charge? And it's like, we don't charge anything. Just bring some people that like to drink.
You close it? Do you close it, or do you just like?
No, I mean, you know, you see how big it is. I mean, we can hold 50 people.
Yeah, so the bar's open. And then
I mean, if you have 30 people, we'll close it for your party, which I don't mind, you know.
I would mind, personally.
You know. But so, you know, here's the thing. You know, we did this party for some teachers at Central Elementary. They did like a holiday party. They're actually coming tomorrow. And off this one party, we probably did 6 birthday parties the following year, right? So now you're starting to see the same people because they're all friends, which is pretty wild. But that almost reinforces the fact that, like, the problem is, like, if I tell you it's $500 to close SIP, you know, and your bar tab is X, it just seems like I'm nickel and diming you.
Right.
And we did have a couple customers say, oh man, we were going to go here, but they wanted to charge me $1,000 on top of whatever we spend. So they chose SIP, right? So it's like, okay, you know, like.
It's like your advertising dollar, like you said.
Exactly.
Like you could give, you know, $860 a month to be on the back cover of Shady Ave.
Yeah.
Or you could just help out these people that want to just gather with friends. And
Well,
like
the funny
hang out.
thing is we're in Shady Ave.
Oh shit.
Like, we didn't get an article, but we're in the directory. So someone was like, oh, you're in Shady Ave? I was like, no. They sent me a screenshot. I was like, oh shit, okay.
I got a real beef with Shady Ave. If you go through Shady Ave, there's more Oakmont businesses and articles about Oakmont in Shady Ave than there are about Shady Side.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know if the publicist or if the ad agent is from Oakmont and is hitting up their friends, but like, dude, you go down Main Drag in Oakmont, like Carabella's in there, like they're all in there. And like the best, like everything is from Oakmont in that magazine. So I think there might be a Oakmont connection there.
Yeah.
But if my brakes get spongy tonight, don't forget I said something. Yeah, I mean, like circling back to like when you were just sitting there like licking at the bit to get open, like at what point were you like, maybe this doesn't come real?
Never. No, I mean, you're so deep in it. You know, you're at least on the hook for your lease, you know, which is coming up in February, which, you know, we're going to renew. But
oh shit, breaking news, renewing the lease.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I think that's part of like being a true entrepreneur is when you start looking at numbers like the lease and you're not, and you're like, well, fuck, maybe this will be a pizza shop, but it's going to be something at some point. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's only in year 3 does it feel like it's a business. Like 1 and 2 were so crazy. It's like one big jumbled year. You know, you're just trying to survive. You know, you're just stressed all the time. You know, now it's like, man, I sleep good at night. I don't worry. I mean, there would be days I'm just sitting there on a Saturday afternoon and you're watching cars drive by and drive off and you're like, why the fuck are you not coming in? Why would you stop and look in?
Why are you buying a 30-pack Icy Light and then driving away?
I mean, it was tough mentally.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing the whole thing with the outdoor like seating for the smash burgers and shit like that.
It's weird. I was talking to one of the guys that started a new brewery down in Etna, and they're doing this marketplace type event. And he says to me, he goes, yeah, we're just trying to do anything. We're just trying to see what sticks. I mean, they've only been open, I think, less than a year. And I totally remember being there, right? So when people put on events and you have all these things, kind of the same thing with openings, like, oh, it's just an event. You're doing a tasting event. Oh, it's so easy, whatever. You're just serving food. It's like there's so much effort that goes into an event. right? So then imagine doing 20 and then 2 work, right? You still did all the work of 20, but you're only getting the return of 2. So we've kind of flipped it, right? Smash burgers are really good for us. Our wine tasting events kill every month. So we're on the other side. We're doing 2 or 3 really good events. And every once in a while, we'll do an event that's new, and sometimes it bombs, sometimes, whatever. But it's not going to kill us.
I saw that you started getting into the reoccurring revenue stream with the wine club.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the wine club.
Oh man, so you have to get a wine license to sell wine to go. So initially we wanted to do it. We got this license, it's an annual license, but we got it in the spring, and the idea was to do like picnic baskets, sell wine to go. That didn't go so well. This was one of those ideas that didn't work so well. And man, I don't know how we came up with the wine club. I mean, we belong to several wine clubs, from Oregon and Santa Barbara. And so we just came up with an idea. You get a couple bottles every month, different bottles every month, 2 reds or 2 whites, 1 of each. You pick, you get some discounts at SIP when you're there, and you get discounts on bottles to go. So it's $75 a month. And it's been great in the sense that it's just money that comes in every month. People have been happy with the wines. It just kind of has that contribution factor that isn't day to day. Same thing with like our events. We sell tickets to our wine tasting events. And we've done different things. We've done like a bourbon tasting event, which was actually really good. We did that last summer. Oh man, you just try lots of shit. But that's one that's been pretty steady.
Do you serve bourbon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But not PA bourbon.
Every once in a while we'll get a local one in there.
Okay.
But that's tough too, because there's a limitation on what you can get in PA.
Right.
The selection's not great, when you think about other cities that don't have the allocation problems that we do, right? Because we're state run and all that kind of stuff. But we did a blind bourbon challenge, it was like maybe a year ago. So we took 16 bourbons and we put them into like a March Madness bracket, right? So you would come in every 2 weeks and you would taste 4, totally blind, and you would pick the 2 that you liked. And then we would tally these votes, and then they would kind of just, so you would be retasting, second round, final 4. And that was a wild experience. That was a lot of fun.
Doing it again this year?
We tried doing it with rye, and it just was not as popular. I think people are attracted to bourbon. It's a little bit easier to drink. But it would be crazy because we'd have groups of people that would be in there tasting, and you could hear them taking notes, comparing.
I've seen some of that go on, like back in March Madness. We were watching some of the hoops games, and guys were bringing in like
we had people, we'd give these tasting cards out, and people would fill the cards with notes. Some people would just be like, I like A, I like C. And it was interesting because the average bottle price was probably $50. So you had some that were 20. I think the cheapest one we had was like $13.
Who won?
Double oaked.
Really?
But double oaked was in the first round. I still remember this. It was up against Rebel Yell, which if you ever had Rebel Yell, it's like a $13 bottle. And it got like 9 votes, 9 out of 16. So we had 25 people that did this challenge. And it was just hilarious because it really comes down to your personal preference on what you think tastes good. I mean, you throw out all the bullshit, throw out the price, throw out the prestige, the name.
Yeah, I mean, Trader Joe's used to have $2 Chuck red wine.
Charles Shaw.
And people would like give it like a 98. I mean, not that I ever had it, but like there were stories of like wine professionals that would be like, it's like a 96 point wine. It's like, it's $2 Chuck. It's all about personal preference.
Yeah, and as funny as fun as the event was, it was like a social experiment.
Yeah.
Because people were trying to convince other people what they liked, why they should like it. And so it was like an interesting debate.
And I'm sure you had people that were tasting it. They're like, that's definitely Blanton's, or that's definitely, and meanwhile, it's the $13 bottle.
Well, one guy did guess the double oaked. And he goes, is that double oaked? And I'm trying to get my poker face on. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. And inside my heart's racing going, fuck, he knows. He knows. The whole thing's over. Oh man, I just got to walk away, go wash some dishes, you know.
I mean, I just think that you found like this little like pocket and it's a great situation for you. Do you have any ambition of ever like,
number 2,
like Sip Room 2?
No, because it would not be the same.
Right.
I can't be in 2 places at once.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it. I don't really like to take days off because I like to be there. I think it's fun. It's my job also. So it would just be weird. You know, I wouldn't want you to go act like me.
Right.
Like if you were the head guy number 2, it would just be totally different, right? In terms of how you interact with people, you know, everything. So and it just was really hard.
Yeah, actually, when you took days off, I walked in and Kevin was bartending. The other Kevin.
Right.
And I'm like, what? Kevin, this is easy.
Oh man.
Like it's hard to like let go of your business. And you didn't make this business to let it go. This is what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Were you always a beer fan?
For a long time. I mean, I was a big West Coast IPA drinker. And so one of the things moving here, it was not here. You could not find a good West Coast beer. It's such a pet peeve.
What was the one that was like with elephant on it, like steam anchor steam?
Anchor steam.
Yeah. What a terrible beer that was. It almost ruined beer for me. I almost became a tequila drinker after that.
So I will say, you know, I'm not a big hazy IPA drinker, but that whole craze just got people into drinking beer. You know, people weren't like big into the bitter IPAs, which was my preference. Still is, like to this day. Like I don't drink a ton of beer, but if I'm drinking, that's what it is.
What's your go-to?
Oh man. No. I mean, I will say, you know, Clean Line from Grist House was on our tap list from day one, and it was probably one of the very first West Coast style beers that I was like, holy shit, this is great. But since we've opened, I mean, a lot of people are doing really good ones. Old Thunder does some really good ones. Grist House has another one that they do good. Cinderlands does a good one. Hot Farm does a good one. CoStar does a good one.
That also paired well with your business. Like, there's a ton of great breweries now in Pittsburgh.
It's made my job much easier, right? There's, you know, it's interesting because you read a lot of articles and it's, you know, they're bragging about, there's 65 breweries or whatever it is in Allegheny County. And in my head, and you might think this way too, it's like, man, they ain't all gonna make it.
Yeah, right.
It's impossible. They can't all be top 5.
There's only so many beers to be drank in a day.
Yeah.
Well, and I've had that conversation too with people about all the breweries that are popping up, and I don't think they're all going to make it, and I think that a lot of them, maybe an unpopular opinion, a lot of times people that make beer at home think, I can make beer, I'm going to open up a brewery, this will be easy, and then it doesn't work. Yeah. Maybe their beer, once you make enough to serve people, and it's not just in your garage, it's not as good as you think it is. And then the other thing too is that you're serving food.
Yeah.
Most of these breweries are not serving food. They're relying on food trucks.
Food trucks, which can sometimes not be reliable.
They can, they can not be reliable. And a lot of times these food truck guys, I mean, they're not going to come unless they can make $1,000.
Uh-huh.
And if they can't make $1,000 that night, they're not going to show up. And then the other thing too, like maybe I don't want to go outside and go wait for a food truck to give me my food and then come back inside with it. I just want to go to a place that I can just do it all.
Yeah.
And your margins, I don't want to speak for you because I don't know what your margins are. Typically margins on alcohol are better than food.
Oh, yes.
So you're not making the money on the food, but the food keeps the people there drinking the alcohol.
Right. It's like the loss leader, essentially.
Yeah.
You know.
John Taffer taught us this all.
Yeah. That if you're there eating, people will typically drink more.
Right.
Which means now your bills are higher, your profits are better.
Right.
So when you have these brew pubs that are all showing up that aren't serving any food, they're relying on food trucks. They don't get that loss leader, and people might go and have a couple beers to taste their beer, but then they're going to leave and they're going to go to the restaurant down the street and continue to drink and eat there. And that's where they're going to have the $150 tab or $100 tab after they spend $30 in your bar. So I think that, there's 65 brew pubs. That's great. That's all well and good. I think over time that's going to start to go down, and there'll be other ones that move in to replace them, but I don't think they're.
I mean, what you mentioned was a challenge for us because people were not coming to eat food, at least to sip, at least in the beginning. So then we started making a smaller menu to the point where it wasn't enough. So we would peak and we've been doing great. And now all of a sudden, what you described is now people are going, well, I have to go across the street to eat, right? Because we don't have a full dinner menu, whatever. And so now we're kind of at a disadvantage because we don't have more food. So we're open to we do a deal with the pizza place. We have an Indian restaurant that people can bring stuff in. I mean, you can bring it from wherever, but we've kind of partnered with them a little bit to kind of help mitigate that.
Right.
The one thing we've been doing is we started doing smash burgers. We've been doing them maybe a year and a half. So we do them on Sundays, and that's bang for the buck on both sides. We make good money on the burgers, and people are coming to watch football. You're talking about a 3-hour block, right? And that's been amazing. And the guy that inspired Sip, my buddy Jay, he's same thing. His brewery was doing smash burger. He's like, dude, Kev, you got to do them. They're easy. They make good money. People love them. They're fast. You can turn them out. And he's 100% correct. And so now I get people that hit me up. They're like, oh, you should do a food truck. You should scale this up. You should do it every day. And it's like, what you said, it's like, dude, I'm not in it to make food revenue.
Right.
If I can make a few bucks, that's great. But
you don't want to lose money on it.
If the food revenue will pay the rent, everything else is kosher.
It's the vehicle to get people to have a few more drinks. That's the bigger.
Because if you expect somebody to come in and watch a football game and be there for 3 hours, they got to eat.
Correct.
Especially with those beers.
Not only to keep drinking and stay, but like you said too, you're drinking. You don't want everybody getting overserved. The food helps. So you got to have some sort of food aspect. And I've talked to people about, these brew pubs are great. And I'm like, yeah, they're okay. I mean, some of them are great. But I think a lot of them are going to come and go. And the thing that I worry about is that they come into these municipalities with these hopes and dreams, and then they end up closing up. And then what comes in next? And now you've got an empty building. And I think the other thing that makes everybody want to open up a brew pub is that license is easier to get than a restaurant license.
100%.
So it's the easier path to entry. Well, I'll just be a brew pub, but not everybody that's opening up these brew pubs is a businessman. Not everybody has a good understanding of what's going on. They made beer in their garage. Some of them are great, and I love going to the brew pubs, but I was having a conversation with somebody and I voiced that. He's like, I don't know. I have a buddy that has one and it's in a different state and he's killing it. I'm like, does he serve food? He's like, yeah, he's got a wood fire pizza oven. I'm like, yeah, that's why he's fucking killing it, because people are eating and drinking and staying longer.
To me, dude, I have a ton of respect for anyone that opens up a restaurant. Because even if you are selling food, like you said, the margins aren't great, but your food has to be really good.
And consistent.
And consistent, right? If that revenue is, I don't know, 60-40, 50-50, man, it's still tough. I mean, all the stuff that goes with having the food side is all this inventory, all this perishable stuff. Like, we don't deal with that so much. But again, we're probably losing money because people go somewhere to eat a full dinner. But to your point about the home brewer, we do this home brewing competition. We've done it twice. We're probably going to do it again in February. And we do it for charity. And we get 10, 12 brewers. They come in. We get judges from local breweries. Because I think part of what you said is, when you home brew for your friends, no one's going to tell you
your beer
tastes like shit.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, Joe makes a wine.
So it's kind of interesting. So we get judges from local breweries to come in and judge this competition to make it official, right? And these guys are great, man. I get Rob from Old Thunder, Trevor from Coven, and then the brewer over at Low Lip, and they give these people.
I want to judge the next one. I'll be
Well, no, dude, these guys write notes, so it's probably the most honest feedback that these home brewers have ever gotten, right? So they get rated, they get numbers, and then it's their honest comments, which I think is cool.
We're out of business.
But what's funny too, though, is, man, this one couple, they did a barrel-aged stout. Right, I didn't think home brewers did barrel-aged stout. And it won, right? It was really good. And you talk to these guys, they're like, hey man, do you want to open a brewery? They're like, nope. They're just simply doing it for fun. And you're like, this is an expensive hobby that you just do for fun. You go to 4 to 5 festivals a year. You got to brew a lot of shit. It takes a lot of time. It's messy. And you're literally just doing it because you like to do it, Yeah. So it's, I was shocked because some of those beers are really good. And I think my assumption was anyone that home brewed wanted to open up a brewery.
Yeah.
But it's
not the case.
Not the case. Which is, I guess, I don't know.
It's always nice to know how to stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Like downsizing your business isn't always a bad thing. And like upscaling your business can be great too. But you start valuing like where you are in life and you're like, well, even if I had an extra $1 million right now, does it make me happy or do I keep chasing it? And like, I got to that point. Like I turned 40 and I was like, well, everything could be great now, or we could chop it and we could get back to like a more sensible approach. And like, I think part of that, like the company you keep is important. And I think coming into your place, I realized that is like, you could have bought like a corner spot in the plaza and had this, 140 stool place and gone crazy with 15 employees, but like you're very good at what you do, obviously on the business side, and you're very good at what you do there.
It's so manageable, right? The idea when we opened, we wanted to do more food. The idea was to hire a bartender. I would focus on food, right? And you couldn't hire anyone.
Yeah.
I got 40 inquiries for a bartender position. 10 said they would interview, 3 showed up, and of those 3, you didn't want to hire them. So then it forced me to bartend and then have to deal with the food when someone ordered something, and then it just became fun.
Yeah.
Now you're 6 months in, you're kind of get your bearings. It's like, I don't not want to bartend anymore. I don't want to hire someone to do this. This is the fun part.
That's the fun part, the interacting with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Like your wife comes down, like walks behind the bar, like, it's like kind of like not what you think of like Cheers, because it's not a Cheers vibe, but it's family. It's a wholesome experience.
It's very casual. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, we get kids, people that bring there's a couple that bring he's like 6 months old. They have a seat that sits, you can put it on the bar and they bring him. He's a good kid. He doesn't scream and yell. He just sits there and
he's 6 months old.
Yeah.
Let's see him in 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the wildest things to me, and I never would have guessed this, was not part of the business plan, was not part of what I hoped this would be, is that we've had couples that came to SIP, didn't come to SIP, came back, but they came back with a baby, like a new baby, right? They were gone for 9 months because someone was pregnant. And it's like,
Can't drink.
Well, no, but it kind of speaks to the point of like this family kind of atmosphere. And
I feel bad. Like my wife doesn't get to come because she's always at home with the kids.
Right, dude, bring them on Sunday. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Steeler Sundays, man. They just hit different.
I mean,
not socially acceptable.
There was one couple, like it was the first place they brought their baby. He was 6 weeks old, And they're like, oh, we brought him the first time. I was like, holy shit, man. It's kind of flattering to know that someone like trusted us to kind of have their...
Oh, you babysat?
But you ever catch my option? Listen, you ever catch my daughter? She'll watch anyone's kids. We'll stick them in the corner. She'll walk them to churn. She checks a lot of boxes.
I actually have had that happen when I was there. Like there was a family like hanging out, and I'm like, now I just feel like a bad dad. I got to go. That's kind of what's cool about your place, though, is it's kind of like what you wanted. Yeah. And even though things are going really good for you, it hasn't changed.
No, I mean, it was tough. Because I mean, honest to God, like the first 6 months, like, oh, you got to put Miller Lite. You know, how many people would be in here. And it's like, oh man. And like you said, it's like, dude, you can go get a Miller Lite across the street.
Yeah.
And like,
you want for any bar?
You're not going to offend me. I go, it's just, you know, if you try to please everybody, now you're just kind of stretching yourself too thin.
Yep.
Well, not to insult you, but like not to insult people, but every bar owner would love to have the clientele that you have. Like, because you're not really a bar, right? Per se. It's a gathering space that has a liquor license.
Yeah.
It's part of the community.
Technically, it's a restaurant.
Yeah, like
it has a liquor license.
There are people out there like, fuck that, I ain't going there. I can't get a fucking Fireball shot and a Miller Lite. I'm not going there.
You know what? No. Not everybody's your customer. And that's okay.
Well, that's okay.
Right.
I couldn't help a million people if they all came.
Right.
You know? So I could only help so many of them. And
there's a reason why I go to sip at the beginning of the night and not the end of the night.
And that was the challenging part is like, you know, for the longest time we would have like, here's our regulars, right? And then you would have a slow day and you're like, how the fuck did all these people decide not to come in this weekend? You know? Yeah. And then you start, you know, then you talk to them like, oh, we were on vacation, got a funeral, whatever. There's a million reasons. So, you know, one thing you have to, or that I learned was, dude, people have shit to do. I don't ever, people would apologize. Oh, I'm sorry I haven't been in a while. It's like, man, dude, I'm just happy you came back. Yeah. You know, I was like, dude, your wife was pregnant. You had a baby. Why are you apologizing to me?
Well, I think that's like the hardest part as a business owner is whenever you like don't see a customer that's like they're always like, it seems like they're the one that you base everything off of.
Yeah.
And then they're not around and you're like, I screwed something up. They're not coming back. They're never coming back. And like, did I just sink the whole ship here? And then they come back and they're like, I was just on vacation or my grandmother died.
I mean, I'm a little bit older, so I always tend to think something bad happened.
Dead.
Or even worse, like they're alive, but something, you know.
They went to AA.
Well, not yet, but.
Sip's got non-alcoholic drinks down there. Don't worry about it.
That's true. But yeah, it's interesting, you know, so the goal was always to try to make the regulars bigger. So I don't need them all to come in one weekend. So now we're at the point where, like, we do smash burgers. You know, we'll do 60 to 70 every week. You know, there's a couple families, they come in every week. They get 6 and 6.
I didn't even know you were still doing them.
I mean, we're going to do them till the wheels fall off, man.
On Sundays?
Yeah.
What time?
Just check the Instagram, 1 to 4. So it got so big, we started making people pre-order because it would just get so wild.
Can I pick up at 12:30?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's 1 to 4. Are 1 to 4, dude.
Are you driving home? You just got to drive home?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll get you this weekend.
You don't typically do takeout?
No, we do some takeout.
Oh, you do?
This lady this past weekend, she ordered 16.
I'll text you. I might get a babysitter. I might be smash burgers all day on Sunday. I'll bring the wife. It'll be a good day for us down there.
So go back to my point is like, there are people that come maybe once every 4 times we do it. There's some people that come every time. So that's kind of my point in terms of like, it doesn't need to be everyone comes on this particular day. But we have so many people that enjoy them that we're constantly selling 60 to 70.
Yeah.
But that number that population of who's buying them is going to be different. Although we do have people that come every week, which is great for us, you know?
Yeah, I mean, your usuals keep the lights on, pay the rent.
And it's almost like that reoccurring revenue stream because people are paying for these on Monday. Like we sent out the link on Monday, people are ordering right away, and then people will show up that didn't pre-order, and we're like, dude, we're sold out. Like, how are you sold out? Like, dude, we were sold out on Tuesday. And so the nice thing is I can limit how many we do. Right. I'm not trying to do 500.
Yeah, you don't have a half a cow sitting in the back that's not sold.
No. So that's been a godsend. We get our meat from a local butcher over in Lawrenceville, Fat Butcher. They're great.
Shout out Fat Butcher.
Oh, dude, so good.
So you have a very different personality from our last guest.
Yeah. Same business guy.
Same typical standard, similar businesses. One of the things, and I have a handful of clients. I don't say a lot of clients, but I have a handful of clients that own bars, restaurants. And one thing that has always been something that I don't think I could handle is the Yelp reviews, the Google reviews, because there's always somebody that just has to be an asshole. Do you read them? Do they bother you? Have you gotten any negative reviews?
I mean, I think on Google we're 100% 5-star.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's interesting because you see all these advertisements on how to get more reviews.
Yeah.
And I don't leave a ton of reviews personally.
Because you're not an asshole.
No, just in general. It's not really that, unless it's really great.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't fish for stuff because I don't want to search for someone that might, I mean, if you have something negative to say, that's fine, but I just let it happen, right? So the only time I really will ask for a review is if you've had a private event, because that's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
And we would love to drive more private events. So it's like, hey, if you can, thank you for having your party. If you feel like leaving a review, here's the link. But I've had a very positive experience at SIP. There's probably like 5 people I hope never come back.
And do you have a band list on the wall? You don't have a band
it's
list.
all in my head.
No
It's all
band
in
list.
my head.
Because like the last guy, he had a whole list of
He's
people.
on the wall. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I've heard a few things here and there, but it would take a lot for me to just, want
Doesn't bother you.
Not really.
Yeah.
Because that person is probably not coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of these 5 people, I don't ever want to come back. They probably haven't been in a year.
Well, I also think like, I don't know. I Google places for their phone number. I don't read their reviews.
Yeah. If I'm looking for a new place to eat or if I'm out of town, I'll look and see like, oh, that place has 5 stars. So
Yeah, that transient revenue.
That place
you
has
might-
a half a star. I'm not going to go there.
Sure.
But, for the most part, but I have clients that own places that are good, but there's always people that are posting about like petty bullshit. And I'm like, do you not have, the problem that bothers me is that I know the amount of effort, and we've talked about it already today, the amount of effort and blood, sweat, and tears that goes into running a restaurant.
Yeah.
And how hard it is, especially when you're relying on staff and you've got cooking teams and dealing with those personalities and trying to keep everything consistent and coming out of the kitchen right. And there's so much effort that the owners of these places, you got to give up your whole life. I mean, it's your whole life.
Yeah.
And then you have some asshole that came in and their food took too long to come out of the kitchen and they give you a 1 star and like, this place sucks. I'll never go back. Don't go. My eggs were cold. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea the drama that probably happened that day in the kitchen, the reason your eggs came out cold.
Yeah.
And that to me, like I read those reviews and I don't even own the businesses. They're just clients of mine and I get pissed off.
Who clicks on the 1-star reviews? Like no one gives a
I
fuck.
mean, so if you want to be entertained, sometimes I'll do that. Not for my own business, but for others.
But who gets a pass? Like people like Sheets get a fucking pass. Because I was just Sheets today and my mozzarella sticks were frozen in the fucking middle. And what do? I throw them in the garbage and go back to work.
But you didn't leave a review.
I didn't leave a fucking review.
Yeah.
Hey Sheets, there's your review.
No,
But
that's funny. I will say for us, I think part of expanding and growing, that's a consideration. It's like, okay, we do beer, we do wine, we do bourbon, and a few other things. There isn't, could you argue like, well, we did have one customer, we didn't have sweet wine. Like, well, that's not our thing, right? So then we have a sweet red and a sweet white.
And
it's probably sitting in my cooler for 2 years because no one has come in to ask for it after that.
Yeah.
But if someone does, we do.
You have it. Yeah.
Right. But the more options you have, the more you open yourself up.
Yeah, no, do what you're good at.
Right.
So that
and that's just
more people
in
are pleased.
that industry or any business. It's just in life. Do what you do good and keep doing it good. You
Like the
don't have
bourbon. So we did the bourbon tasting and then we just decided we should just have bourbon, right? But then people ask about tequila or vodka and it's like, no, we don't. And the reason is that, if you have vodka, people expect a Cosmo, people expect a lemon drop. And I'm not a professionally trained bartender, nor do I want to spend the time to make, if you're rolling solo, I'm not making a cocktail.
Right.
And, dude, you want bourbon? It's going on the rocks or it's going neat.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to mix it with Coke, that's on you. But you know,
here's your Coke, here's your bourbon.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to circle back to like what we're good at, we had a Tomlinism this week. Mike Tomlin said like the Shack attack. Remember the old Hack a Shack comment? But like Shaq shot 52% from the free throw line, but like he still made fucking $150 million playing basketball because he knew what he was good at.
Yeah.
He didn't go practice free throws on the fucking weekend. Like
you practice pounding people down the post.
You know what you're good at.
Yeah.
You found this like niche of like a thing. Like I don't think that I've ever walked to another bar in Pittsburgh that's kind of like yours.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. No one's going to build a bar to look like Sip. Right. Name another bar that's managed by one person, just most of the time. It's just not, it's just not a traditional model necessarily.
I would like for John Taffer to come see what you got going on. He'd be like, you can put 48 more fucking pump tops in here. You can fire yourself. You
Look
can
at the
hire
food menu. There's 100 on
yeah, we can fucking get albacore tuna in here. And like, but what you're doing is like, obviously your wife still works, which is unusual in a lot of small business. She has a career, you have your career, and like you have this like feng shui amongst the two of you, which is like not that easy to accomplish when you own your own business.
And it also goes back to what we talked about with Sean from Slice in New York, is that if you stay focused on what you're doing and focus on the bottom line. Don't focus on the top line. Yeah, you can add vodka, tequila, cocktails, Miller Lights, and you can grow that top number, right? Because you're going to attract more customers, but that doesn't necessarily grow your bottom line.
Yeah.
And if more businesses focus on the profit instead of the gross revenue, then you realize you don't need all that other shit.
Right.
Because yes, that will bring more customers in the door. You'll make more money on the top end, but your margins aren't going to be as good. You're going to be spread thin. You're going to have to hire more staff. And now all of a sudden, you're doing all of that to pay employees.
Right.
You've taken probably the fun out of it for you because now it's more of a job and not something that you're passionate about and you enjoy going to do. And you're just adding all that other shit and adding more stress and more volume. Yeah, your top number is going to be higher, which is what so many business owners look at is I need to make $1 million. I need to make $2 million. I need to make $10 million. But you're not making $10 million because by the time you pay your staff and by the time you all your other costs that come with that growth, your higher rent, your higher insurance, your higher everything else, your bottom line may not change or it's going to change. You could 10x your gross revenue. You're not going to 10x your profit. What's the point? So you stay focused on what you're doing. Yeah, your gross number may not be as high as it could be, but your profits are, and it's still an enjoyable thing for you. You probably look forward to going there and being with the people that come and support you and doing what you love to do instead of just churning out Miller Lights so that you can make $10 million in a year. That's not what you're here to do, and that would make it less enjoyable.
It would make it a job.
Yeah.
Right. And man, I get solicited all the time. And, this one vendor sends me their list and I see what a half barrel of Miller Lite is. I was like, holy shit. I was like, man, someone might be onto something. Then I got to smack myself and be like, okay, it's not worth it. And it's everything that comes with that, right? So the one nice thing I would say for me, as the business kind of settles into like a steady mode, is like in this past year, I'm looking at the bottom line to cut. I've leveraged my internet cost, my phone cost, I was marketing out my insurance for liability insurance, which I didn't have time to do. I just needed it. Year one, I was like, who's going to insure me?
Yep.
Which was tough because I'm a new business. But now that I am an existing business, you can, let me get 3 quotes.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to save me a few $100 every month?
And starting out too, your insurance companies are looking at you like you're a bar.
Yeah.
They're going to charge you the same rates as the guy across the street that's serving and the volume, and it's a different clientele where now you can be a little bit more competitive in those things. So that growth, we always talk about scalability. When you start a business, you want to build it to scale it, possibly build it to sell it. But a lot of times that takes the fun and the passion out of it. And then what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
I mean, everything that I've ever experienced, where you're at is kind of where you needed to be. Like, it might have taken you, I don't know how old you are, it might have taken you 22 years to get there or 42 years to get there, but like, you're in a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
Kids are going to a great school. Your kid's going to a great school. Your wife's in a great job. Like, it all just seems to work out. And I think that if you light a match to any of that, it just breaks your nucleus, and I had to go the other route where like I had to go past my circle to where I had to like turn around and like I'm selling something without believing in it or understanding it. And I'm just on a rat wheel.
Yeah, you
and
nailed
like,
it there.
And like, I just am now like getting back to the point where like I'm starting to believe in it again. And like, I can go figure out how to sell it again, where like you kind of just like found your sweet spot at the beginning.
Well, that's something he has in common with Sean, because they started out that way and they're he used the word fighting growth.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of keeping the business at a size where you can maintain that perfection.
Yeah.
And that's where you're at. You started out that way, and we've had a lot of people in this seat that didn't. We let our businesses kind of get away from us, right?
Yeah.
And what you just said, you nailed it. So I had to kind of interrupt, but pulling everything back and refocusing, because I'm in the middle of that, right? Because we grew a lot, and I got to a point where I wasn't happy with what we were doing. We were churning stuff out, and we're doing good, and I still think we're one of the better accounting firms in the city of Pittsburgh, right? But I wasn't excited about what we were producing, because I felt like we were just doing what everybody else was doing. And I'd have new clients come in and they would complain about stuff about their last guy. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because we deal with the same struggles, right?
Yeah.
But we took that, and actually, honestly, dude, I have to kind of give you props, because the journey that you went on, kind of reeling things in, is something that I looked at and like, yeah, I need to do that. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're reeling everything back in.
You might have jumped on too soon. I'm starting to second guess myself right now.
But fixing the things that I didn't really care for, honestly, like retraining the staff.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this thing that we've been kind of getting away with for the last year, I don't like that. We're not going to do that way anymore. It's a shortcut. I don't like the way it is. We're changing it and retraining everybody. And this is what we're going to produce. And if you don't like it, then you're going to go somewhere else. And we're going to retrain our clients to understand what we're providing. Maybe that costs more money.
Yeah.
Maybe we lose some clients.
Say, maybe cost you a few clients, but
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I want to focus on the clients that understand and appreciate the product that we're going to deliver, so that I can be excited about what we're doing.
You're not serving Miller Lights.
Right. I want to go out and be
here.
confident and excited to sell the product that we're providing. And I have to rein things in to be able to do that. And I admire a business owner that started that with that vision.
Well, I mean, it's tough because, it's interesting. There's so many ebbs and flows when you're just opening and you want to do new things, you want to expand. But again, that takes away from the core business.
Yep.
And, at this point, like I said, because we're kind of on cruise control is the wrong word for it, but where I'm not worrying about it is I can look at stuff I don't like. Whereas you kind of get in this cycle of just doing it because it's not detrimental, but it might not be positive, but it could be better, right? So you kind of go in and you kind of look at opportunities to make things. And the tough thing is, I think, when you want to improve, you're expecting like big changes, and it's not. The one thing I will say that I've learned is, in the bar business, you're nickel and diming. It's small ball, right? Yeah. Someone would come in and have one beer and go, I would second guess why they came in. Oh, they didn't like it or whatever. Oh, dude, the dude's got to go home. He's got to get his pizza, right? Yeah. And so a $7 tab is fine, 50's better, 100's even better, but it's this combination. When you look at a financial statement, nobody knows how many orders. I mean, I can guess, but it doesn't really matter.
We talked about that last week. It's like the dry cleaning business is kind of similar. Is like we have a bunch of small notes. So like, $12, $20. We love the $300 orders, but like at the end of the month, you turn around and you're like, I did $42,000 last month. Like,
It's weird because, as an accountant or someone on the financial side is, if I was the accountant on my business, I'd be, oh, you're doing great. But when you're living it, it doesn't always feel great.
Right.
Like we have days, we'll have a busy day that does not seem busy. Maybe there were 8 to 10 people there for the entire shift that are, rotating. And then we have days where there's 50 people in there for 2 hours. I'll look at my phone. It's like, holy shit, it's only
# book club.
Book club. Exactly. Right. But, the assumption is like, oh, I'm going to do, X this day. And it might be the same as that Saturday that just didn't seem as busy, but you were small balling all day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to kind of remove yourself because there's an emotional component, when you don't feel busy, right?
Yeah.
Which can be a challenge.
I'm in the middle of that, right? Like right as we sit. Like so Thanksgiving was Thursday. So we obviously didn't do any home delivery on Thursday. And generally we were closed Friday after Thanksgiving, which we were. And then we'd have no Saturday or Sunday business. Monday I wasn't there. Tuesday I thought I'd come back and it would be hectic. It was clean, smooth. And now I'm like, I haven't worked in like 5 days now. Like we have to be broke. Then you start looking like, yeah, we had 0 revenue on these days, but today, we had a great day. And like, I think you got to just push it away from yourself and quit looking at, don't get too close to the number, but don't get too far away where you don't see the number.
Because it's been the opposite too. Like we'll have these busy periods and I'll think at the end of the night, oh, we should be at X. And then it's less than X.
Like everybody was drinking water?
It's like, no, but it's like, I'm so exhausted. I physically feel like I worked really hard. That doesn't even translate to more money.
Right.
Because you could be not stressed and just be serving people all night and it'd be nice and smooth and easy, and you could be making more money.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneurial way though. It's like understanding that there's ebbs and flows. Like if you quit after your first slow week in business, you're not an entrepreneur. You had an idea and it failed, and that's fine. People do it all the time.
We opened in October. We were busy. We grew every month. Right, going into the summer. So even May was busy. I don't know why. We'd graduation parties or whatever. So May was our busiest month at the time. So we thought, holy shit, dude, we have all this momentum going into the summer, and it just tanked. So you're like, okay, first week of June, graduation, whatever, no big deal, down. Second week, Father's Day, down. You're like, okay, it's just third week, down. So like June was probably half of May. And you start going into like, what the fuck did I do mode? And then, but in hindsight, people are on vacation. This is post-COVID. Nobody's around. People are at pools.
It was a dry summer.
And
the boats are out. And
even with all those reasons, it don't make me feel better. Because we didn't budget for that. We were expecting to make even more money. And now we found that the summers are probably our slowest months. But then the following year, we thought the same thing. We'll do our vacationing in June. Holy shit, June was crazy. And now I'm exhausted from working really hard and then going on vacation, which...
Yeah, but you're not hesitant to close for vacation, which a lot of people are in their business. It took me a couple years to get into, but like, I'll just shut it the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like, that's the time I get with my family. Like,
yeah.
I made the analogy like Mrs. Jones, is she going to be standing at my casket saying, where are my pants? Or is my son and my daughter going to be standing there saying, wish we had more time with dad?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's really what it comes down to is again, when people have opinions, it's because of something that they want or something. It's,
Yeah. What's the thing? Opinions are like assholes. Yeah. We all have one and they all stink.
So I've gotten pretty good at kind of.
Yeah. Well, you're killing it in my eyes. I mean, I've never left you a review. Here's your review.
Feel free to.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you guys a review. I'll see it.
Yeah. When I brought this up to you, I was glad you were pumped to do it because not everybody wants to sit in a chair and talk about themselves, and their business. But,
I mean, this is not, it's kind of funny. This is kind of what I do all the time.
To each person.
Which I don't, if you ask people that know me, I'm an introverted person. If I go to a bar, I don't want to talk to anybody. I will sit there, enjoy myself, but I do enjoy the interaction.
Yeah.
But I'm not one to start a conversation.
Yeah.
But the conversation has to start because somebody wants something to drink.
And you're selling.
Right. So I'm forced to introduce myself, right? But it certainly is not, it's not where I'm most comfortable in my personal life.
And the first time I met him, he said, "I'm Kevin, I'm from Munhall, go Steelers."
Yeah, I'm similar. If I go to a bar, I'm not going to like talk to the guy next to me and be like, "Hey, what's your name?" I'm just not that guy.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time, like in college, I was in sales, and obviously you own your own business, you're in sales, and
like I never thought I could be a traditional salesperson because I'm not outgoing.
Yeah.
Yet that's what I do.
yeah,
Dude, I've left your place with honey, bro. You've sold me honey.
But like you said, somebody sits at your bar. What are you gonna have for a drink? What's going on? Like that is natural.
Yes.
Where,
right.
Hey man, what's your name?
Yeah.
It's not natural.
Yeah.
To me, it
For me,
it's
definitely
uncomfortable.
Not.
And like I've gone to like conferences and stuff like that where they have like the beginning, the meet and greet thing, the mixer, and I'm like, I don't want to talk to any of these people.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, when you're sitting there in the actual seminars and you're kind of commiserating together and talking about stuff, then you make friends. But at the mixer thing, like I went to one last year in Texas and they had the big mixer, and I went outside. It was at a big like resort hotel in San Antonio, Texas. And I went down to the mixer and I'm walking around and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm going back to my room.
You need a hype man.
Yeah. I thought immediately was like, I should have brought somebody, because I feel like two people walking up to a group of people talking is a little easier than just like, hey, I'm Jerry from Pittsburgh. What's your name? Like, it would have been, it was just awkward for me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do this.
and for the most part, things that come up are beer, bourbon, sports. Yeah. Those are all things I enjoy talking about.
Right.
And I can, I feel like I'm pretty well versed in them. So it comes from a place of being comfortable about, talking with people.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely makes things easier.
I mean, I'll circle back to like your clientele made it easy for me, because like I kind of knew some of those people but didn't really know them, but I can go there and I don't have to worry about like bumping into people that I really know, and it was like kind of like off kiltered. And then last week I bumped into a lot of people I did know, and I'm like, oh shit, now I gotta I gotta open Sip Taproom too. See what this franchising deal looks like.
Can't hide anymore.
I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like two degrees. I mean, people know, and that's how the book club thing started, is like people just talk and people know who's someone's parents or cousin or brother.
Or you meet their parents and cousins and brothers when you're there. It's a fun place, man. You really build something unique. I personally appreciate it because it's in our community. And like we were talking and he said, "Where do you live?" And I told him, and he was like, "Dude, my wife walks the dog every day down your street."
We're practically neighbors.
Yeah. So it's fun. And that's kind of why I wanted to like move out of where we grew up, because everybody knew my name there, like there was no Sip Taproom, my future in Oakmont.
Like for me, it's like the best of both worlds. It's like I get to see the interactions and the relationships, but now I'm kind of in it from the outside, but I'm on the inside.
Yeah.
Right. I hear a lot of shit, which is hilarious in its own right. But again, being like a natural introvert, it's like I'm in with a group of people that have known each other since they were kids or whatever, right? It's a pretty wild take in that respect.
I run into a lot of my wife's friends there, so like she knows I'm safe there. Like she'll hear if anything.
She'll know. She'll know if you misbehave.
It's funny, man. People will call their wives and they're like, "I'm at Sip," and for some reason they're good.
It's a safe word. It's a lot of safe words. So in the next year, I mean, obviously you have no plans to expand or or no breaking news?
We have an idea that I cannot divulge, but there may be some sort of expansion by the end of 25.
That sets us up for episode 2.
Yeah, I like it.
Sip part 2.
Yeah, there's some moving parts, but it would be an interesting addition. We'll see what happens.
He's hired me.
Yeah,
That's
the big.
I've always wanted to tuck the towel in my front belt and just go for it and see what would happen. But I'd rather do it in like a tropical region.
That's a bar I could work at because I don't know how to do any of the cocktails or anything like that. But I can pour beer. I could talk about beer. I could pour you a little bourbon.
There you go.
That I can handle.
One thing that fires me up is like, you get a beer there and then you get a next beer and like he gets you a fresh glass or he'll clean it because he has this fancy cleaner. And I'm like, you don't have to clean it, man.
What's so odd about that though? I don't know. It just seems natural. I
want lipstick on my glass from the person before me. Let's go.
So you can just kind of imagine what that chick looked like. Like it definitely wasn't the 300-pound lady. It was definitely the hot one.
Dude,
I mean, part of what gave me the ability to want to open this up is I worked at a hotel in college, and so I was like the food and beverage auditor. So I would see like the back end of the financials and some of the financial stuff in terms of food costs and all that stuff. But their big key was the Four Seasons Hotel, right? So they're all about customer service. They had all these procedures in place. And so it's funny because it's one of those things where people were just like, I don't need a new glass. And it's ingrained to me to just give someone a new glass.
Yeah.
Unless someone specifically says, which I do have some customers, like, do not give me a new glass.
No, I want to save you a buck or a penny or a nickel, whatever I could do. But when you say that hotel vibe, it's like your bar is like a hotel bar.
I mean, it's a 5-diamond hotel. So there were standards there that I implore for sure.
Yeah.
Just in terms of following up, next drink, eye contact. But yeah, it's one of those things. There's a handful of things that people say that this might be for the next episode that they kind of boggle my mind sometimes, but
yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming out and doing this with us.
Yeah, this was awesome, man. I appreciate you.
I also appreciate your business.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to go out.
You'll be there tomorrow within the next 16 hours.
Yeah, what time? You open tomorrow?
Well, we got a private event tomorrow until 6, so we're hosting some teachers.
What?
The teacher happy hours are great because they start early. Yeah. So
yeah. That's a conflict of schedule for me now.
There we go.
They got
plug the socials. How can people find you?
Oh man, mostly Instagram.
Okay.
Sip Taproom _PGH. Facebook as well.
All right.
Not too much on Twitter. Trying to get my daughter to do the TikTok. She's too busy.
Fuck that. That's for the kids, we've been told.
That's we heard.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. I mean, that's kind of been the best advertising we've done, and it is kind of nice because you can see stats, you can see activity, and it's free.
Yep.
So it's just my time. So
I appreciate your time.
Awesome,
Man.
yeah, man. Thank you guys.
Awesome.
What's your favorite beer?
Of all time?
Yeah, not just local, not what you sell, but what's your go-to?
Oh man, it's tough, man. I mean, the one thing about the craft beer industry is they're always doing new stuff.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say one beer. I mean, if I had to say one beer, it's got to be Pliny the Elder. Probably got to be in a big West Coast beer. Pliny the Younger's got the big brother, but comes out seasonably. Consistently, the UKA would definitely be Pliny the Younger. Pliny the Elder, I'm sorry. Shit.
What's the next book for book club?
Oh, fuck. The next one will be the first one. But who knows?
Whatever one he just throws in the bar.
We got a couple. So
yeah, we'll have to check out the book club.
Yeah, I'm there.
Awesome.
Come get a smash burger on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Go.
Jerry's going tomorrow without us.
No, I'm waiting till Sunday. I'm gonna go without you Sunday.
Well, don't drive all the way back home to eat it. Just come to my house and eat it.
I'm gonna eat it there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can eat there. They got a sweet. It's a sweet spot, man. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna eat there and drink beer.
Yeah.
I'm sad that you're going to be on here and now everybody's going to know about it. It's going to be overrun.
Oh man, yeah, it's a catch-22.
So, well, there sounds like there's a part 2 in the works, and I like to hear that with any business owner. And we hit them with all the time. At the end of the episode, we say, "Thanks, guys."
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Yes, we still call it Twitter. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.